On Saturday, November 23, Feilding and District Steam Rail Society ran a successful excursion from Palmerston North to Taumarunui and back, with the rolling stock being provided by KiwiRail. DFB 7282 did the honours, and the train was made up of 8 Capital Connection SR coaches. These coaches are normally only used on the weekdays only Palmerston North to Wellington commuter service, and this was the first time they had ever been used on an excursion. Traditionally, the previous S-Class coaches, which were replaced by the SRs in July 2023, were sometimes hired out for excursions. This resulted in them venturing far beyond their normal stomping ground, as was the case in November 2022, when DFB 7010 hauled them up to New Plymouth and back. This was another excursion organised by the Preservation Group in Feilding. The SR-class coaches, which can be found on Te Huia and the Capital Connection, are former British Rail Mark II stock that were originally rebuilt as SA coaches or SD cab cars for Auckland commuter service. It's interesting to see them get refurbished again and used for different purposes, even after they were replaced by electric multiple units in Auckland. After chasing DFB 7049 and the Northern Explorer down from Te Kuiti, we saw DFB 7282 arriving in Taumarunui. The Taumarunui Rail Action Centre, or as I read the abbreviation, TRAC, had their little museum open ahead of the train's arrival, and they also had a souvenir stand on the platform. As we all waited for the excursion to arrive, DLs 9786 and 9279 came roaring through the station with freight train 225S. The passengers had the better part of 2 hours to look around the town before heading back to Palmerston North, and during that layover, DFB 7282 was uncoupled from the train and driven over to the turntable. For whatever reason, DBRs 1213 and 1200 are now stored in Taumarunui, after they were brought up from Wellington in late October. One of my friends was lucky enough to catch them during their transfer run, and I'll include a link to his video in the top right corner. As for the turntable, this was the first time I had ever actually seen it in use. I dare say this thing would have been used quite frequently back in the steam era, when Taumarunui's yard was a much busier place than it is now. The train was scheduled to leave Taumarunui at 3:15 p.m, but we decided to get ahead of the DFB and her coaches before they left the station. Our chase began at Matapuna and ended at National Park. We got to Rorimu just as DLs 9360 and 9417 were coming down the spiral with freight train 234S. They were sent into the crossing loop to wait for the excursion to clear the single-track section ahead. National Park Station is probably one of my most frequently visited spots on the main trunk, especially since 2017. Sadly, there's not a lot going on here anymore following the station cafe's closure, But as for how I got this shot, I simply held my phone up to the window from the outside. On the plus side, the Northern Explorer still stops at this station, but it's weirdly quiet when there aren't any trains present. I'm not entirely sure why the excursion stops here, given that this wasn't part of the schedule. Indeed, the only other place where it picked up passengers besides Palmerston North was Martin. In any case, there must have been an issue of some kind with the coaches, but it couldn't have been too serious because they got moving again after only 8 minutes. There's one more thing I want to say before signing off, and that is simply, well done to KiwiRail and the Feilding and District Steam Rail Society for arranging this excursion. And here's hoping we'll see more excursions with the SR coaches in the future.